Black Scully on, check. Got a little Cincinnati t-shirt on, check. Welcome to another marvelous episode. On today's docket, we're going to talk more about spring news intel as camps start to close and camps begin to open or get closer to their scrimmages and get closer to their spring games. We're going to talk a lot more about that. Let's just be honest. That's just what we're going to do. Also, on today's docket, Bleacher Report did a nice piece on the top juniors heading at each position heading into the 2026 campaign. I think it's really interesting that when you think about it, this junior class, this 2027 NFL draft class, is really deep. So I think there are some positions that you may agree with, I may not agree with. I think it's going to be really interesting once we start to really look at this list. So I thought Bleacher Report did an outstanding job on that. Also, on today's docket, we got some really interesting into the news story. We're going to talk about the $10 million that was given to UCLA and how that will really benefit their program, especially in the football sphere. Also on today's docket, we got more Dabo v. Pete Golding. I'm loving it. Of course, Dabo had the fiery message to Pete Golding a few months ago. Pete Golding has responded when I guess the time was right during his spring camp. We're gonna talk about that. Gus Malzahn has joined the College Football Playoff Committee. What does that mean for us, and are we excited about that or not really excited about that? We're gonna talk about private jet spending as well. I told you guys about the Bleacher Report. I'm super excited to talk about that Bleacher Report article. I agree with most of it. I think some of it is really difficult to argue with, but I think there's some things that I'll probably make a valid point, and you may not agree, and that's okay. You may not agree with me, and it's all right if you guys don't agree with me. It's okay, but I'm always going to give a point that matters, in my opinion. Also, we're going to talk about, already talking about the spring game, until we're going to do a run around there, and I don't know. I think this season has a certain chartered waters to it that is going to be really interesting, because there's some teams who are like, what are you going to be? You got a team like Iowa State that has no returning starters, and in a world where returning production doesn't matter as much as it used to, well, damn, no returning production. A lot of that has to do with a lot of their returning production is in Happy Valley with Penn State. So we're going to talk about that as well. Governor of College Football, hashtag go CFB. CFB Nation, your only college football destination. Let's get it. Governor of college football, we're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's
Two great
CJ on
defensive
the
minds.
track.
They have to be better on that side of the Alrighty, let's get into the news. It's my dog D now say forget the Cyclones. I know you're happy about it with the Cy-Hawk matchup. If you guys don't win that one handedly, I have some questions. I really do. So let's talk about UCLA's $10 million gift. Also, my apologies. Show was extremely late today, but I have a reason for that. I had got this a while ago, this Go CFB sign, and it actually lights up, but when it lights up, my camera is not liking it. So I tried another camera that's a really nice camera that we use when we're on the road. Couldn't figure that one out. So I was like, we'll run it, and then we'll just leave the Go CFB sign without the LED on. So that's what was going on. So just making set production things that's what we're talking about. So let's talk about this UCLA thing. I think UCLA sports-based administration, especially on the football side, has had a difficult time financially. I'm not sure why, because SoCal isn't hard to sell. We heard the song by Tony, It Never Rains in Southern California, and that's difficult to sell. Kendrick Lamar once said, women, weed, and weather. How difficult is it to sell UCLA? Now, I know your rival school, that school cross town is a school that a lot of people like to go to as it pertains to football. I think UCLA is better in basketball, both women's and men's, but why is it so difficult to sell UCLA? I think this $10 million gift, they were able to get to one of their alums, Angelo Mazzone. The third, I think this is great. I think this is good for the program. I think this is something that's necessary, and we see schools across the nation starting to do this. We see in Ohio State, before they won their 2024 national championship, we seen some of the players coming back and say, hey, let's support this. Let's give some money. Let's do what we have to do. I think that was absolutely magnificent, and that's what it takes to win in this era. This is the transfer portal era. This is the NIL era. We know from a semantic base, this thing is the Wild Wild West. Still same great college football, but it's still the Wild Wild West. But you need this type of money if you're going to be able to perform at this level. It's no getting around it. And I heard back in the day he made a gift to the program almost about 50 years ago, and it's great that he's able to do that. Bob Chesney is now their head coach. We saw the success he had with JMU a season ago. What does that look like? Year 2 for Nico Iamaleava as quarterback. Bob Chesney is a proven winner. I think they got a really great guy that kind of fit what they're trying to do at UCLA. I just want to see it on the field. I said it before. I said it again. I'll say it again. Chip Kelly did an absolutely abysmal job during the lame duck period, preparing who was the incumbent coach. It ended up being Deshaun Foster. That was a nightmare, and I'm not going to place all the onus on Deshaun Foster. I'm sure there's things, if he had an opportunity, he would redo. But at the very same damn time, like, come on, bro. The recruiting, if you look at what it was when Chip Kelly first got there, and so before he left, he wanted absolutely nothing to do with college football. So that's an issue, but I would like for that money to be used appropriately to build their roster. I'm kind of confused with the transfer portal, and I'm going to do a governor ruling, not on today's show, but at some point talking about the transfer portal. It's supposed to open the 2nd and the 16th. We're still hearing moves now. Just weird, but I kind of hinted at this a while ago that we did have some withdrawals and enrollees a season ago, and Xavier Lucas and Jake Ratzlaff after the situation with him breaking the honor code. Where do we go with that? So, because there's still a lot of people getting signed, a lot of people unenrolling, my apologies, or withdrawing is probably a better verbiage, but it's a lot of moving pieces. But this is, I think, is a great thing for UCLA. Hopefully this money is used appropriately to construct the roster you need to construct. We see down in Lubbock what's going on right now. They're spending money, but you can see the play on the field. They made a college football playoff last year. They should be overwhelming favorites to win. Them and BYU, I guess, will be up there as well to win the Pac-12 this season. I don't know. It's just really interesting to see, but that is an excellent commitment that it was able to get from Angelo Mazzone, and hopefully they can continue that and continue the tradition of excellence, and we haven't seen that lately, but I believe they got their guy in Bob Chesney, a head coach. Pete Golden versus Dabo Swinney. This tampering situation, to me, this is an open shut situation. Kid enrolled at Clemson. He was in classes. Had his classes signed up for at Clemson. It's an open and shut case. It was clear tampering. It was clear poaching. The fact of the matter is that Charlie Baker and the NCAA refuses to hold people accountable except for eligibility. That's the hill that they're willing to die on. There are bigger fish to fry in this sport of college football when it pertains to semantics, and the hill that they're willing to die on is eligibility. I don't get it. I will never get it. It's super frustrating to me, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. So Dabo accused, if you don't know about the situation, been hiding under a rock, or you're kind of casual in this offseason, it's okay, I'll update you. So Dabo Swinney accused Pete Golding and Ole Miss of tampering to flip linebacker Luke Farrelly. He was at Cal, ended up committing to Clemson. So they tried to, Farrelly committed to Clemson on January 2nd, was barely on campus a few weeks before re-entering the portal and committing to Ole Miss and going down to Oxford, right? Swinney words at the time called it tampering. 301 said that Golding was texting Farrelly while he was already sitting in class at Clemson. Golding broke his silence this past Tuesday, that was a day ago, and said, I think there's two sides to every story. Some people say there's three, some people say there's five. 5 is too much for me. I think there's 3 sides to every story. So Golden version is Farrelly visit Ole Miss before the Fiesta Bowl. Golding told him there was no spot available at the time, but if it opened up, it was his. That's he's going to be the green dot Mike for that team if you've been missing that. The green dot is just the guy that gets the play call from Pete Golding because he'll still run his defense. And he just get the play call and communicate it to his teammates. Swinney's version, Golding was actively recruiting a player who was already committed and enrolled elsewhere. At the end of the day, Pete Golding did PR 100, 101, 201, 301. Hey, listen, I ain't break no rules. If I did break any rules, NCAA didn't really say anything. He did what he's supposed to do at the end of the day, but because there are no harsh rules on tampering, poaching, really contractual anything as it pertains to players, sticking to their NIL. We saw a couple of bizarre situations this past portal season. Until we get those rules, until we get this commission and a commissioner, whichever happens first, I think we'll still see these type of situations. I think if there's one thing, if it's a hill that I'm willing to die on in college football, I know the contractual obligation. CBA is one of those hills I'm willing to die on, but tampering is up there. And tampering may be numero uno as it pertains to what we need to fix as far as the semantics of college football. Because tampering is out of control. It really is. Gus Malzahn has been added to former head coach, offensive coordinator extraordinaire. Gus Malzahn has been added to the CFP selection committee. We kind of talked about this on a reaction Monday a few days ago. One of my favorite shows we've done. It was kind of an editorial piece. We was arguing about the G6. That's how I know, yes, spring is in the air. It's April 1st now. Happy April Fool's Day. Let me know in the comment section if you got anybody with any April Fool's jokes. I stopped participating in those a while ago, but my boy Jalen Wilson got me in one earlier. When he was shot, I thought he was going to give me one, he didn't, but he got me in one a little bit later. Said he's a better PG than me on 2K. He's crazy. Smoking good drugs. I hope he's in here to hear that. But, so Gus Malzahn officially joined the playoff committee, and I think it's good. I think if you are a football person and you're looking at people to make decisions based on football, this is a hire that we're 100% comfortable with. I believe so. This is a guy that has seen it all. He's seen all of the different eras, whether it's the BCS era, whether it was the 14 playoff era, we're now in the 12-team playoff era. You want football people making these decisions. Also, Hunter Yurachek was renamed the chair as well. I think some of my biggest issues with the College Football Playoff Committee, and we discussed this on Reaction Monday as well, is what is the algorithm? What is your algorithm? Like, we know that your strength of schedule matters more than anything else. We get it. SOS is important, but also your SOR is important as well, your strength of record. But what is the exact algorithm? I want to know the percentages and everything else, because I think us, the media, have a right to know. We have a right to say, hey, a lot of us go to these games. We go on tour every fall. We're also at media days and in the summertime. We also go on fall camp tours. So we're around these programs. We want to know what makes you decide whether a team or not, based on their resume, is a college football playoff team. I want to see the metrics. I 1,000% want to see the metrics. And until we are at that point where we get to see the metrics, it's really frustrating. It's really frustrating. So I like this hire purely based on the fact that I think the committee needs more football people. Yes, they do have some more football people. And if you don't know, Malzahn's outstanding resume, 105-62 as a head coach, a couple of different stops. It's interesting to me to see how this things fall. We know we got the situation with Notre Dame. If they're a top 12 team, they're automatically in. That mean a lot, and I don't think enough people are talking about it, because that means that if they're 12, they're automatically in, right? And this is just if they're 12. Of course, they can be higher and nobody will argue about it. But if they're 12, they're automatically in. Don't forget, we get a G5 bid that's probably not going to be a G6 bid, more than likely not going to be in the top 12. So that means whoever that 11th seed is, congratulations, you've been screwed by the Fighting Irish. So I think that's something else we got to deal with. But I want to know a couple of things, well, two things. One, we get more football people in that building. And yes, the analytics matter, but it's people, that eye test matters just as much. But I also want to see the algorithm. What's decide when we start to look at head to head? Of course, two teams play head to head, cool. But if we're picking team A versus team B, they haven't played each other, similar SOS, similar SOR, who's going to get the nod? That's what I want to know. I want to know that algorithm. That is very important to me. Our next story, we'll talk about some private jet spending. It's crazy the access of information that we have. I think social media has helped us a lot now versus back in the day. Like private jet spending, we actually have those numbers. This is intriguing to me. But Front Office Sports sent public records requests to schools, and approximately 50 of the 138 programs, and it's now 138. I know we were just at 136. We were just getting used to 134. It seems like it's changing every year. Shout out to Sacramento State and North Dakota State. Major programs like Ohio State, Georgia, Notre Dame, and Oregon are not in this data. And of course, when I say the resources are plentiful in Eugene, the resources are plentiful in Eugene. Make no mistake about it. I think that's, if I'm a coach and I could pick any job I want to go to, I'm going to Eugene. When you got Phil Knight and Nike behind you, yeah, you're doing some amazing things. So the top spenders among schools that responded: Alabama at $1.23 million. Hey man, private jets, get it how you live. Nebraska, $1.13 million. I think the biggest thing that bothers me about Nebraska growing up and seeing Nebraska and how great they were in the 90s, all of the 90s and the early 2000s, and to see what this program has become now. And it's not because the fan base isn't loyal, right? We know that. The sold out streak lives on. I know we got a lot of skeptics about that, but the sold out game streak lives on. $113 million for private jets. You know, they're willing to spend money. This community, the boosters, the donors, they have the know-how to be able to build a winner. And I know it's difficult in the Big Ten, but I want to see them take the next step. We've seen other schools take the next step. I need to see Nebraska take the next step. Matt Rule, in my opinion, has a hot seat, whether people want to admit it or not. I'll admit it. And they need to win this year because the expectations were high last year. You know, Matt Rule, year 3 Rule, they were high the year before, and they just lost their starting quarterback. I'm interested in who see it should be Anthony Calandria, and hopefully they can figure out what they end up doing with him. But Michigan at $107 million. Sharon, what was you doing with the private flights, man? Was you like flying recruits in, or I ain't gonna ask. I ain't gonna go there. Y'all know where I wanted to go though. Texas A&M at $925,000. Not too shabby. 39 private jet trips, 24 tagged as personal use for head coach Mike Elko. That's pretty cool. What the perks of being a head coach at the collegiate level is pretty outstanding. Top 12 spenders were were all SEC and Big Ten programs. Of course, big bank take little bank. It's just the way it is. The outlier that tells the whole story, Indiana spent $42,000 on private jets and went 16-0 and won a national championship. I think if you are a psycho, if you're attention to detail and you have an innate passion for winning, that's what you get there. Nebraska spending $1.3 million on private jets and going 7-6 is not cool, right? So spending does not necessarily equal winning, but I think it's in the off season. We want more college football stories to talk about. You know how you are. If you're fanatical about this thing, you want more things to talk about. I just thought this was an interesting piece to talk about. And our last story for our Into the News segment, we're going to talk about Kirby Smart, where Gunnar Stockton is with his injury. He was seen wearing a knee sleeve in spring practice. Kirby Smart called it a little off-season injury and said he's fine. And I think that's pretty good. And Gunnar Stockton, what do you rank him as a quarterback, whether it's in the SEC or like in total in the FBS? What do you rank him as a quarterback? How do you see him as a quarterback? Because I thought he was very underrated at times this past season. Really wowed me that Ole Miss game. Really wowed me the Tennessee game. That was one of the best quarterback performances I've seen all year. In the game that Tennessee should have won based on analytics and metrics. If you do 100 Sams with them scoring, on 3 straight possessions, all touchdowns versus a stout Georgia defense, they should win the game 100%. So, but where do you rank? You can answer that down in the comment section. Where do you rank Gunnar Stockton as a quarterback? I don't know how to feel about them, where they at, but yeah, he had 70% completion rate, 2,800 yards, 24 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, not bad, and of course led Georgia to an SEC championship and college football playoff berth. Mike Bobo, Gunnar Stockton, I think that next step in progression is being able to take more shots down the field. A lot of things were like right at the line of scrimmage. We saw that a lot. So, be interested to see what happens with Georgia. But that is our Into the News segment. Let's go ahead and move right along. I'm going to move into Governor Reacts. All right. So, like I said in the opening, I saw a really interesting story on Bleacher Report. I was like, we got to talk about this on Governor Reacts. Also, don't be afraid to comment. Let me know how you feel. Bleacher Report top junior at each position. Some of these I won't agree with. Some of these I absolutely will agree with. Dante Moore, Oregon. Bleacher Report went Dante Moore for obvious reasons. Look at the success. He had big shoes to fill there and had a lot of skeptics because we saw the debacle at UCLA before he transferred and got to sit a full year, which is, I think, still works. He kind of did it the old school way, the way that Arch Manning did it. Arch Manning just said a little longer. And it's one of those things where I kind of understand 1,000% why he decided to say, yeah, I'll come back another year. I think a lot of that had to deal with the New York Jets. I think if he's absolutely in the draft, he will be going second to the Jets instead of Ariel Reese, who I think is going second to the Jets. That always scares me because more tape typically is a good thing for a quarterback, but we've seen in recent memory that that cautionary tale is real. Remember Garrett Nussmeier coming after that 2024 season? Like, it was high, and we didn't know if he was going to enter the draft or not. Come back this season, and things just don't work out in Baton Rouge. BK doesn't seem to get a response from the team. Garrett Nussmeier, they just getting beat up all year and just not making the right decisions. Sometimes that can really hurt your draft stock. Because, coming into this year, a lot of people were looking at Gunnar Stockton as the guy, and now, he may be a mid-round pick. It's cautionary. Spencer Rattler was another guy heading into his year. He was supposed to be the guy. I think it was either for the 2020, I think it was for the 2023 NFL draft, maybe it's for the 2022. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he was the guy coming into that season, and then Caleb Williams happens, and he had to end up transferring to South Carolina and playing another year or some change just to be able to make it to the NFL. So while Dante Moore, I believe in him, resources are plentiful in Eugene. Will Stein is no longer there. He's at Kentucky as their head coach now. So I do have some questions. So for me, the best, my apologies, my phone is ringing. The best junior quarterback for my money is Arch Manning. I know you guys want to throw some tomatoes for me saying that, but I truly do believe that Arch Manning is the best junior quarterback. Not only because what I seen last year, of course, early in the season, it was ugly. There was times I'm like, yo, what's going on here? Is this a Steve Sarkisian problem? Is this an Arch problem? It was both of theirs cumulative. Both of them have to take onus for some of that debacle early on in the season. But if you paid attention later in the season, they figured things out. But the biggest issue with Texas last year wasn't Arch, wasn't Steve Sarkisian. It was their ability to win a war of attrition on the line of scrimmage offensively, and also their inability to run a ball, which made it difficult to pass the rock. So they showed up that offensive line. They did get some pieces in the portal. And I'm telling you, Cam Coleman is going to be huge for them. He's going to be huge. And I like what they've been able to do in the portal. So for me, I think Archer's going to be the best quarterback this year. I really do. Keep on Lacey at running back. I think this is difficult to argue. Miles Hardy may be the only other name that we put up here. But 306 carries, 1,567 yards, 24 touchdowns in 2025. I remember a game versus Miami where Ole Miss was struggling offensively. And Keyshawn Lacey said, yeah, let me do something about that. And he fixed that. So, yeah, Keyshawn Lacey, in my opinion, is the best junior running back heading into this season. But Miles Hardy is definitely a close second. I think the one that everybody would agree with is Jeremiah Smith. I think this is no debate easily. 87 catches, 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns. And, arguably had better stats as a true freshman. It'll be interesting to see what he does this year. But I will say, while the gap is wide between him and who's next, I think Cam Coleman can really climb that ladder. And watch out what he has going on. He has not played with a perennial quarterback yet. It was Peyton Thorne. It was Jackson Arnold. He deserves better. I think this system, I think Steve Sarkisian's going to find a way to get him the ball, and the weapons that they have offensively is going to work out well. Trey'Dez Green, excellent. 6'7", 240, 33 crushes, 433 yards, 7 touchdowns last year. I'm not mad at that at all. Jordan Seaton, LSU, seen him at Big 12 Media Days last year when he played with Colorado. Bidding war was certainly created. This guy's elite. I'm not going to argue with that one. Interior offensive line, man. We got Evan Tening-Ishdal. I'll probably say this name all wrong, from Cincinnati. AP All-American. This is Bleacher Report thoughts. I'll leave it there. Colin Simmons, I like. Edge at Texas. They have at the number one returning edge. Junior, 12 sacks in 2025, 9 sacks as a true freshman. Real deal. Interior defensive line, we got Will Eccles, Ole Miss, under Pete Golden's system. Pete Golden is the head coach. He still will call it defensive plays. I ain't mad at it. Linebacker, I think, is where we get interesting. We got Elijah Hardy at Indiana. I mean, Sammy Brown at Clemson, I think, could take a step forward. Watch out for him. And then also, don't forget about Whit Weeks, who's real deal as well. So those are some of the names I'll throw out there. And then Leonard Moore at Notre Dame is the cornerback. Safety is KJ Bolden from Georgia. And that is all for our best juniors heading into 2026. Let's move on to our next segment. Got quite a few things to talk about here. Alrighty. So, been a fun episode so far. Like I said, I apologized earlier for starting late. Wanted to start on time. We're live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the off season. For now, we will kick it up a notch soon. Trust me, we'll be going up to 4 episodes, probably no more than that. in the fall it'd be different because Fridays are travel days for the most part. So we're going to go spring camp intel. We're going to go around the nation. Let's start with Georgia. We talked about Georgia a little bit earlier. I told you guys he was Gunnar Stockton, their starting quarterback, was dealing with a minor knee injury. Day to day, I think he'll be fine. We got Pelizzi taking a lot of the first team reps in his absence. And I think this is a great time for those backups, to get the reps that they normally wouldn't get if Gunnar was out there. So it's always good to see, hey, what do you have as it pertains to your backups? KJ Bolin, he is certainly going to be a future first-round pick, every bit of the All-American candidate he deserves. Auburn transfer, Mary Williams at outside linebacker is a player to watch. Georgia defense took a step back last year. They really did. If we're going to be honest, they took a step back. I'm excited for Georgia to play Georgia ball defensively. And there were some games which is unusual. We had to see Gunnar Stockton go win this, which was interesting. And G-Day is April 18th if you haven't missed. Up next, we're going to head to Norman, Oklahoma. We got Brent Venables. I opened up his spring with a significant injury list. David Stone won't play much in the spring. Also, Satenya changed his number from 5, I believe he was, to 1 this year. That's some interesting news. A shout out to my boy Boomer who told me about that, Jerry Gray. The number 1 Oklahoma Sooner fan. He told us that in our chat earlier today. So Jaden Jackson injured. Adapohu Adabawari, he's hurt as well. I'm butchering names today. Running back Torrey Blaylock is out for the spring, and then Trail Harris is out as well. Despite the injuries, Venables called this the cleanest offseason workouts he's seen at Oklahoma. We know what Oklahoma do. I think the interesting question for Oklahoma is a couple of things. John Mateer, can they keep him healthy? Will they keep him upright? What type of plays or how creative will they be? Him and Bernard Buckle this upcoming season. They have to have the ability to run the ball. And both Brent Venables and Bernard Buckle agree, like they were 104th in the nation running the ball last year. That is abysmal. And they went to the playoffs like this. So that tells you how great their defense is. And when John Mateer needed to make some plays, he made some plays last year. But 104th in the nation is only 68, Power 4 teams. 104th in the nation? Like, you're sitting down there with a bunch of G6 schools. So that's abysmal. And that's some of the things they're trying to clean up down there in Norman. I like what's going on in Norman. We got McCulloch there as their running back coach now. I've heard nothing but great things about him since he's been there. And I don't know. Things is really interesting. I believe their spring game is spring 18th. Look out for that. We're going to head down to the Dodd, Bobby Dodd in ATL, Georgia. What are we doing for you? Talking about Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech coming off a 9-4 year where they could have absolutely won the ACC and just kind of down the stretch. It just didn't look good at all. It really didn't. But they finished top 24. Ranking in top 25 at 24. And in 2025, best finish that they've had in a little while. I'm interested to see what's happening with the quarterback competition going on right now. We got Graham Knowles, Cole McGarren, we got Grady Adamson and Alberto Mendoza competing. I think Mendoza does win the starting spot. They haven't said much, and I think Brent Key will keep a lot of things close to vest. But what I expect out of Georgia Tech, their head coach, is his motto is run the ball. They're going to find a way to run the ball. And I think Mendoza's skill set give them the ability to run the ball with quarterback as well. Their spring game is also April 18th. My boy CFB Moon should be down there. And they got some interesting home openers, bro. They play Colorado, who they struggle with. They won the game last year, but they absolutely struggled with Colorado last year. Now after that, they got Tennessee. So we're going to find out a lot about this Georgia Tech team within the first 2 weeks of the season. Oklahoma State, we know Eric Morris and company pretty much left Denton, Texas, at North Texas, and then took everything they could to Stillwater. This team was abysmal the last season and a half, and it was difficult. I'm being modest here. Last 2 seasons, the Cowboys have been terrible. Interested to see what it looks like with Eric Morris there. We've seen quite a few coaches have players, whether it's another conference or another level, take a lot of players with them. Alex Golish is another guy at Auburn who took a bunch of players from USF with him. So be interested to see what it looks like. I think the Big 12 has kind of been that conference that someone always comes out of nowhere to play really well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Houston is a team that I'm looking at in that conference as well. I do believe in Connor Wegman. I think we just saw a smidget of what he can really do this upcoming season. But Oklahoma State, they should at least go bowling this year. And then Virginia Tech, if you don't know, I will be there April 7th. That's next Tuesday, just 6 days away. So I'll be in Blacksburg. Hopefully I'll try to do a show out there. That'll be cool to see their fall camp practice. See what James Franklin is getting into. Reestablish 2026 is one of the mottos that they're adopting out there in Blacksburg. And that's a mission statement for the program that went 3-9 a season ago. Brent Pry, I think, was one of the best staff moves this year. I really do. The guy that was a head coach, the humility of him to say, you know what, I want to stay here. My family likes it here. We'll stay in Blacksburg, and he's an outstanding defense coordinator. Defense is what he does, 100% so. And he was with James Franklin from 2016 to 2021 and had some outstanding defenses there at Penn State. So I think that'll be look pretty well. Quarterback room completely overhauled. I had such high hopes for Kyron Jones in 2023, 2024, 2025. It never happened. A lot of it was the line. A lot of it was him. A lot of it was changes at offensive coordinator. I don't think they quite fit his skill set. And it's frustrating to see a guy who I thought had a lot of talent just not get or yield the results that, I kind of expected him to yield. And I'm sure he expected to yield as well. I think Ethan Gronkmeyer will be the guy at quarterback for them this year. I can't wait to get to camp. I truly can't wait to get to camp. I just want to see what the intensity is like. How fast is the offense moving? There's just so much I want to see. And they practice indoors and outdoors sometimes, so it'll be interesting to see if they end up practicing indoor or outdoors. I believe it's an early morning start, so I cannot wait to get there April 7th. I'm going to also try to make it April 18th for the spring game. I'm going to the draft this month. We got a trip to Charlotte coming up as well, so it's going to be a hectic month. Next month is crazy, too. I'm going to Orlando, going to Miami. It's going to be hectic. And then July, it's all media day season. Did 3 media days last year, all from Radio Row. I anticipate on doing double of that, 6 all from Radio Row this season. So that was a little bit of spring camp until, let's go ahead and talk about this governor's ruling a little bit. All right, so what do you all feel about returning production, right? Return of production has been something that I've been high on, like one of those analytical stacks. And shout out to Bill Connolly of ESPN. He does the SP Plus list. Return of production is one of the quadrants and one of the metrics that is utilized in creating the SP Plus. And I thought for years that is one of these standards. Like, what is your team looking like? How many starters have you returned? Have you filled the pieces that you need to fill? But if you got like 8 dogs coming back defensively, then dude, you just need them 8 dogs to treat, show these new pups, new tricks. That's all that you needed to do, right? And it's been something that's been near and dear to my heart. And one of those analytical things I love, but now I'm kind of torn because the transfer portal was utilized. And we seen teams like last year, it was stark. It was a stark comparison between the teams and how they built their rosters heading in, for the 2024 season and heading into that college football playoff. They were built out of high school. Like, everybody was pretty much at least in the 80s or high 80s or even low 90s for what their rosters looked like. Their overall roster construction was through high school. And then we see a stark disparity when we look at this past season where pretty much everybody in the playoffs utilized the transfer portal. And it was crazy. Some of it was 60-40 high school, which is crazy to me, to portal, or 70-30, which is still kind of crazy to me because I always wanted to be somewhere around 85-15. And then Clemson having the return to production that they had a year ago, this past season, and things just not working out. So I still love this tool. I just use it differently now because I have to keep in mind the transfers. Like, Indiana not returning a bunch of starters, but hell, Josh Hoover and Nick Marsh are there. And I hear they're lighting it up right now, by the way. So it's just something I want to talk about. So I still think return to production matters. When it pertains to, if you're a coach, you're on a recruiting trail, trying to get more players to get there, you're recruiting for the next year, you're recruiting for this year, you're in a portal, you have a group of guys when you're not around who acts like your coach on the field. It's that player-led accountability, right? I think that's what you get a lot of times when you do have that type of return to production. So let's talk about the top of the list. USC leads the list with 15 returning starters. They have 9 on offense, 6 on defense. To me, this is very impressive. Lincoln Riley gets he's not well liked. I'm not sure why he isn't. He just isn't well liked. I think the guy's a genius. If you don't know, I've said this damn near on every show that I have a playbook. It's an air raid playbook, and Lincoln Riley was the inspiration for creating my own air raid playbook. And I was high on USC last year. I'm higher on them this year. Jada Maava is going to be incredible. He's going to be incredible. That running back room is going to be incredible. And the fact that the entire offensive line is back, that says a lot. So when we look at this metric, I know last year it didn't tell whole truths because Penn State had higher return production last year. Dud. Clemson had higher return production a year ago. Dud. So I'm interested to see how does that look now. Because you got a team right now in Ames, Iowa, that returns 0 starters. None. Zilch. That's bad. Like that, to me, that's real bad, especially with a new coach. But it'll be interesting to see how they figure that out. But yeah, USC leads it with 15 returning starters. We got 9 offensively, 6 defensively. That's pretty damn good. So Georgia, Notre Dame, Oregon, Oklahoma, Virginia Tech all return 14 starters. I like to see that. And it's important to return starters. I gave you a couple of reasons earlier, just to have that leader-led accountability, players who understand the system, and before a coach can even get to you, you know what I'm saying? That's it. You were supposed to be here. You weren't here. What are you doing? I think a lot of times that's just what you're going to get, right? So I'm just trying to make sure this sign don't fall down. I hear it. I got to figure out a better way to get it up there. So Georgia returns 8 of its 11 defensive starters. That's crazy. So when we talked about last year, the struggles they had defensively, we should see that increase this year, 100%. So I love the fact that the foundation is there. KJ Bolin, Alex Robinson, Raylan Wilson, Kentavious Johnson. This is great. Oklahoma returns 8 defensive starters. I'm sorry, Notre Dame returns 8 defensive starters. And, you got Leonard Moore, who's the big name, Tay Johnson, Christian Gray, Adam Schuler are all back. And Notre Dame was another team who historically has had such an elite defense that we saw struggle this past year. We saw a game like Texas came into South Bend and put points on the board. They put a lot of points on the board, so that was interesting. Oregon returns Dante Moore, quarterback, 8 defensive starters, including Bear Alexander. Great year last year. Mateo Ugalili. I'm surprised he even came back in the lower secondary. So let's see what happens this year for them. We know that they lost both their offense coordinator and Will Stein and their defensive coordinator and Tosh Lupoy. Be interested to see how quickly things gel there. Oklahoma returns 14 starters. John Matera, quarterback, 5 offensive linemen. That's impressive. And Brent Venables has the pieces to make a major step. And think about it. They made the playoff last year, but there was a lot of meat left on the bone offensively and defensively. Like we saw Ole Miss march to Norman and put points on the board just like they did with everybody else. But I'm sure Venables wasn't happy about that. So, and then some teams, you start to get a little worried. Team down in Norman only have 7 returning starters, 3 on offense. They'll have a new quarterback. See how good Ryan Williams is this year. And the model, I think SP Plus already has them like 32nd in offense. This is where I start to get a little worried. Auburn has just 3 returning starters, but they got active in a portal. Not so worried about that. And Iowa State and North Texas both have 0 starters returning because their rosters was absolutely destroyed by the former head coaches who decided to go elsewhere. So, return production, in my opinion, it still matters. It should still matter to you. Maybe it doesn't matter as much because of the transfer portal, but I think if you want to get those portal players, you got to have that culture, and the culture can't just come from the coaches. It has to come from the players as well. So, shortened show today, only really because I had to start a lot later and I got some things I need to do. We are live Monday, Wednesday, Friday for now, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you don't know me, I am the CEO of CFB Nation. That's one of the fastest growing college football entities in the world. Credential media member. Every fall we go on a tour, and we go everywhere. We'll go to a HBCU game. We've done 3 games in a day. We'll go to a G6. I think we'll cover G6 more than anything this year. Can't wait for Media Days. I'll be at Media Days. We'll be live at Radio Row. As I always like to say, there are no more victories in a sport that survive in the fans. That's why college football has the greatest regular season. Until next time, you all take care. We'll see you on Friday. On time on Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You all have a good one. Governor of college football. We're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's
two great
CJ on
defensive
that track.
minds. They have to be better on that side of the ball.